come here, come here. Listen, they've got me on some kind of crazy fluid restrictive diet, and I'm dying of thirst. So can you do me a huge favor and fill my water bottle up?
Hit the subscribe button and the bell notification to become part of the Transplant Helper community.
Hey, Transplant Helper community, my name is Jim Merle, and today I just want to pause for just a moment and explain to you what it means to be on a fluid restrictive diet. Now, if you're like I am, back years ago when I first heard the term a fluid restrictive diet, I really didn't think anything about it. I remember the morning vividly. The nurse came in. She told me, she said, Mr. Merle, we've noticed you're retaining quite a bit of fluid right now in your abdomen, and we're going to go ahead and put you on a fluid restrictive diet. To that, I probably just pretty much shrugged my shoulders. I didn't care. I didn't know what that meant. She walked out of the room, and it wasn't until about an hour and a half or 2 hours later, she came back in the room to take some vital signs, maybe draw some blood work, whatever. And as she was leaving the room, she turned and said, Mr. Merle, is there anything I can get you while I'm out? And to that I replied, yes, absolutely. If you would, please go ahead and refill my water bottle right here. I'm dying of thirst. You know, I drink all the time anyway. Go ahead and refill my water bottle. To that she replied, I'm sorry, I can't do that. She went on to remind me and explain that you are on a fluid restrictive diet, which basically meant to me, and this is kind of the baseline for everyone, that I was being placed on a 2,000 milliliter / 2 liter / 64 to roughly 67 ounce or 6 to 8 cup of water limit per day. And because I was a heavy drinker, and I mean by that I drank a lot of water, I had already pretty much met that limit by maybe lunchtime this day. And so I wasn't going to be able to get anything else to drink for the rest of the day. So you know exactly what I did. I went all cotton mouth right then, you know, dying of thirst, feeling like I couldn't sweat, you know, just feel like I was in a desert or something like that. I was begging and pleading her to get me some more water by the end of the shift, and she just couldn't do it. I was on that fluid restrictive diet. So immediately I get to doing some digging, some research, and I discovered that this fluid restrictive diet was probably the most important part of my treatment at that point. This applies itself if you're in cardiac, pulmonary, and or renal failure, pretty much all three. When you're placed on a fluid restrictive diet, it is to try to take some of the burden off of those organs or that particular organ, whichever you're involved in, to keep it from being under too much stress. And in my case, being in stage 4 heart failure, of course, in the hospital waiting for transplant, I was having a pretty difficult time breathing, pretty difficult time, you know, kind of keep up some stamina, very low energy, this and that. And a lot of the symptoms, at least, were not coming down to the actual failure itself, but the fact that because of the failure, I was retaining some fluid. Now, for me personally, the fluid was often retained in my abdomen, but for most people, it can be in your hands, your feet, your face, including your abdomen, and you'll retain some of that fluid. And if that gets too high, it puts a lot of strain again on those three major organs, the heart, the lungs, and the kidneys. The heart and lungs, obviously because of the pressure itself. The kidneys, because it was their job to expel those fluids from the body. And if you've got too much fluid, the kidneys just can't work fast enough. So the symptoms are increased, things are much worse, and you're really putting yourself, if you take in too much fluid, in a pretty dangerous position, because you've got an organ, for example, my heart, which was already weak, already failing, and any additional fluid retention that I had was really just totally increasing, maybe doubling, tripling, quadrupling, whatever, the strain on the muscle and making it extremely hard for it to do its job. So being placed on that fluid restrictive diet, again, that's about 2,000 milliliters, 2 liters, that converts to 64 to 67 ounces, about 6 to 8 glasses or cups of water a day. That was the limit. Now, the way they determined that I needed a fluid restrictive diet, the same way they were determining for you, is going to come across because one or two factors. One, on the one hand, they're going to be constantly checking your weight. You probably noticed in the past, they come in every morning, maybe several times a day, but at least every morning when they come in to do those morning vitals, draw the blood work, you know, the torturous things they do at 5 a.m. Yeah, they're tough. A lot of times they'll have you to get out of the bed, or maybe if they got a bed that'll weigh you, they're going to take your weight. And each day they're going to weigh that and compare it to the last 24 to 48 hours. And if they determine that you've gained somewhere in the neighborhood of 3 to 5 pounds within that 24 to 48 hour window, they're going to automatically assume that you are retaining fluid. And that's probably right. Second to that, you'll probably already also notice, an aggravating part about being in the hospital, and that's when they collect your urine, your pee-pee, in a bucket so they can measure the input versus the output. And I can remember pretty much the whole time I was blessed in the hospital. I was able to get up and go to the bathroom myself, but then there was still that additional fun time of collecting my own urine, whether it be in a pan in the toilet or one of those nasty, bedside bottles we all hate, and visitors hate them even more. They won't even look our direction if they see it. They would collect that, and that's because they would post on the board over there my input versus my output. And if, say, for example, I was taking in 2,000 milliliters per day, which was this limit they just placed on me, versus maybe outputting 1,000 milliliters a day, then the simple math is easy. I must have been retaining 1,000 of that. So only about half the fluid that I took in was going out. And that's a problem because that builds up very quickly and again becomes very, very, very dangerous to your organs. So if you're like I am, and when you first heard the idea of fluid restriction, it caused you to panic and really just kind of ticks you off because they're holding back something that you think you need that's vital for survival, go ahead and cooperate with them, because that fluid restriction not only brings your symptoms down, it really puts you in a lot safer position as far as your failure goes, in that they are willing to do that. Now, as far as some tips I can give you for that, basically just take it slow and easy. If they give you a certain number of ounces all day, even though I'm tending to want to grab a bottle like this and guzzle, just take it very slow and easy. Drink that little incremental things throughout the day. Spread it out. You don't want to be done by lunch like I've been so many times. In addition to that, ask for ice chips. A lot of times they'll give you ice chips or something just to put on your tongue, just to kind of suck on throughout the day. That won't account for much. Small cup of ice chips won't account for much. And at least that'll kind of wetten or dampen things up, moisten things up, so you won't have to deal with the torture. In addition to that, hey, ask them if you can get a piece of candy, a piece of hard candy, a sucker or something. Sometimes just that within itself can help to moisten that palate up. But anyway, question was asking me the other day, is a fluid restriction important? The answer is yes, it's very important, and yes, you need to follow it to a T. Now, there's a disclaimer here at the end of this. They may put you on a fluid restriction that is much different than the one I described. For example, if the 2,000 milliliters is still causing you to retain fluid, they may go lower than that. They may give a little leeway on the other side of that, and they're doing that obviously as a kind of an individual technique for trying to keep your fluid levels under control. But cooperate. You might complain, but just mumble under your breath. It's not the nurses nor the doctor's fault. They're trying to help you to be healthy as much as possible. If you found that this video has helped you out in any way, how about go ahead and hit the big thumbs up button, like this video. That lets YouTube know that this video has helped you in some way. In addition to that, if you're not already a subscriber, right now, today is the perfect time to hit that big subscribe button. Be sure to hit the bell notification all beside that, because that lets YouTube know that, again, you enjoy this channel. It also lets you be notified anytime I put out content, which I hope will continue to help to advocate, educate, and motivate you as a transplant patient. Love each and every one of you, and until next time, stay stronger, friends.